Welcome to the Career Wanderlust podcast, your compass for new career horizons. Today, we are talking with Chris Pienkowski. Chris is the founder and president of Straight Arrow Coaching, a leadership development firm focused on working with small and mid sized growing American companies. Chris has more than 25 years of experience working with and leading companies ranging from startups to publicly traded corporations. Throughout his career, he has started and run 4 companies. He has led turnarounds of regional and national companies. He's led business coaching and leadership development programs in companies of all sizes and coached small business owners through critical growth stages by systemizing and scaling their operations. I am super curious. I'm really excited to learn more. Chris, thank you for joining us on the Career Wonderlist podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jolie.
Oh, I'm excited to have you here. And I'm super curious about a lot of your knowledge because as an expert leadership professional, you have worked with countless executives trying to make their best impact. I would love to know what you feel has been some of the most important career advice for people to hear and why.
Most important career advice is to have a clear goal of where you want to be
Mhm.
and what you want your career to look like. I've seen people just wander through their careers and then feel unfulfilled or have difficulty finding their next job because they haven't been focused on building a specific skill set or mastery in something. And I'm not saying that being a generalist is a bad thing, but you've got to have some kind of baseline of expertise to be able to justify being a jack of trades, for lack of a better word.
Mhm. I think this is great advice. It boils down to knowing what you want, right?
Mhm.
You can't be successful unless you really know what it is that you want. And when you have a clear picture of what you want and what you want to do, it allows you to excel in such a way that otherwise you're wandering around all over the place without the focus if you don't know what you want, right?
You're right, and that extends to every part of our life.
Mhm.
It applies to our career, it applies to our personal goals. If you don't have specific goals that you're shooting for, then you never know if you've achieved it. You never know how far away you are from getting there, if you've surpassed it. So, I'm a big fan of setting goals and career goals, professional goals, personal goals, because that gives you something to shoot for. It helps you to focus your energy, it helps you prioritize your day, your week, your month, and it really just yeah, keeps you focused.
Right.
That's really the main word here.
Oh, I completely agree. It's a masterful thing knowing what you want. And I believe that if you don't know what it is your personal goals are and what it is that you're working towards, then that means you are living other people's goals.
Mhm.
You're living someone else's definition of success
Absolutely.
and possibly not quite as fulfilled as you could be, is going to be my
That's right.
guess.
Yeah, I couldn't
So
agree more.
now, with working with all of these leaders, I'm curious, what have you found to be some of the greatest predictors for success for leaders?
Uh, Greatest predictors of success for leaders is number 1, a level of confidence. Believing that you can achieve the goals that you've set out for yourself, for your organization. Understanding the difference between confidence and cockiness.
Oh, right.
So, people like to work with and for confident leaders.
Mhm,
They do not like to work with cocky people.
mhm.
So, it's understanding that you're not the master of the universe and that you have a team around you who should be smarter than you in a lot of ways. And the other thing that I think is a big predictor of success is having a mindset of win or learn. It's not win or lose because we don't win everything. I don't care who you are. You have to approach those losses as what can I learn from it to apply going forward.
Yes.
That is a huge predictor in my experience of successful leaders versus people that kind of fizzle out in their leadership track.
That mindset is vital to have.
Mhm.
I completely agree. It's one of my favorite sayings, actually. There's no such thing as failure, only winning and learning. And I have found that the leaders who have this mindset are incredibly strong. They're incredibly innovative. Their teams are creative. Their teams are also very comfortable and confident in themselves too, to make decisions and know that if there is a mistake, they'll be able to figure it out make it okay and learn from it and keep moving forward. I
It's
love what you said about the confident and cocky thing too, because to be honest with you, I was just having this conversation with my teenager because that transcends not only at work but also in life, I feel. And I feel that the confident yet having that humble aspect to yourself, so it's you don't have the cocky, you're confident what you're doing. People
mhm,
want to help you rise. They want to build you up. They want to be a part of it, right? They're excited to be a part of it and help grow in that way. But when you cross to cocky, and this doesn't matter if it's in business, even in personal, people just have this, I want to take you down a little
yeah,
bit. You
mhm.
know? This is what I've noticed psychology wise.
It can be such a detriment, and I know it's something that I dealt with early in my career. I've helped my one teenager with that as well. He's an athlete, he's a varsity wrestler, and he came to me with something that a teacher had said to him, and I said, "It sounds to me like you're coming across as cocky and not confident." And when you're a teenager and your brain is still forming, it can be tough to wrap your head around it. But when you're a professional and you're moving along in your career, you should be able to distinguish between
Right.
what it means to be cocky and what it means to be confident.
I agree. I completely agree. So, what on the flip side of it, what are some of the great mistakes leaders make, would you say, besides being cocky?
Yeah. Some of the biggest mistakes that I see from a leadership standpoint is people get to a certain level within an organization and they believe that they should know everything.
Oh,
When I like to say that's the complete opposite. You
mhm.
need to surround yourself with people who are subject matter experts and you need to empower them. And I see too many leaders trying to micromanage, trying to hold on too tight because they feel as though they've gotten to a level in their career that they need to protect themselves, or they they just are under the impression that they should know it all. And the best leaders seek advice from the people who are working for them and with them and put that power in their hands. So that's probably one of the biggest. And I would say that a second big mistake that I see is leaders who do not develop their own emotional intelligence.
That's big.
That soft skill of EQ is such a predictor of success. So, back to an earlier question, predictor of success is people who are continuously building up their EQ.
Mhm.
And a mistake are the people that kind of plateau, don't even realize it, don't think that they need to develop their EQ. They look at it as touchy feely,
Mhm.
which honestly, early in my career, I thought so too. Oh, that's touchy feely stuff. But those soft skills really make the difference in a leader's ability.
I think they're magic. I really do. I think those
Mhm.
soft skills are it's what keeps people on your team too, wanting to
Yeah.
stay there for lengths of time, which is how you get the best talent, which is how you get the best creativity and innovation from your talent. So the soft skills they're magical. And I feel like they have not been given enough credits, if you will, in the past. I feel like they are now. It's definitely getting the attention it deserves now. And I love to see the leaders changing their ways and really putting more focus on empathy, kindness, and EQ skills to bring to their teams. So, really
The
important.
beauty of it is that people think about leaders being smart, right? Which is your IQ. When we're born, we have the same IQ throughout our entire life. It shifts within points, but your IQ is relatively stagnant. Your EQ, you can continue to build and develop throughout your entire life. So that is a skill that you can always be working on, always be raising your emotional quotient. So that's what I love so much about it is that it is flexible and you can continue to build on it. It's not fixed like your IQ.
Mhm. And it's an absolute superpower. Really having a strong EQ is like having a superpower. I'm curious, do you give advice on how to build EQ skills by chance?
A little bit. And some of the advice that I give around building EQ is number one, and this is also a leadership mistake, is that people often think about communication as me delivering a message to you,
Mhm,
whereas communication is a two-way road. It's the way that we deliver and receive information.
mhm.
So, from an EQ standpoint, I will tell people to just shut up, like plain and simple, let other people talk, and you only interject when you need to. But by doing that, you're paying attention to body language, you're paying attention to the words, the context behind the words,
Right.
and you're observing the room or the Zoom room, wherever you are, physical or virtual. But when you stop talking, it allows your other senses to kick in, and that's going to help with your EQ because that's all about knowing what's going on around you and how you're processing it.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
no,
that's the
listening.
one main thing is I just tell people to shut up and let
Yeah,
others talk.
listen, yeah, and take it all in. Really
That's right.
listen, right? Yeah. Like exactly what you said, take in the body language, all the reading between all the lines of what they're saying as well. There's so much to learn when you're really paying attention.
And you also, when you're not focused on speaking and you're really focused on listening, now you're not just looking to be able to give an answer. You're formulating your thoughts. You're really going through what that person just said, and your answers are purposeful and they're not reactive. So you're responding, not reacting. And that's also another way of boosting your EQ.
I love it. So I'm curious about the tributes of successful leaders because we went through a number of things here. And I'm wondering if there's anything we haven't covered that you think are important for leaders to be successful. And also, if you feel like there are certain attributes that are the most important right now because we are in such a rapidly changing world. I feel like there's so much changing for the future. Is there something that you think is the key for leaders to be focusing on?
Yeah. So it's something we touched on, but I think it bears some repeating. What I teach, so I created a framework called high impact leadership, and it has 5 principles. The fourth principle is conviction and caring. So the conviction side is understanding and knowing my values, what the standards are that I hold myself to, what I hold others to, what are the values of the organization. But then the caring side, this is where I think a lot of leaders fall short is the genuine caring for their people.
Mhm,
And it's not just caring about their professional performance, but it's caring about them as an individual.
mhm,
It's making sure that they're providing the resources that they need, providing that time off. People, I think people get into a leadership role and they want to go.
mhm,
And while that's all well and good, we all need some downtime. But I've seen leaders get stuck in this mental space of everyone needs to go at the same speed as I do. And if they let up, then there's a weakness. That's not a weakness. You need to let your people have a day off. You need to,
yes.
let them spend time with their families. But it's the caring part that I think is going to be so important going forward. It ties
Mhm,
back to EQ.
mhm,
And when you can be empathetic and caring with your people, I think some people confuse that and say, if I care too much, now I can't hold my people accountable. That is absolutely wrong. You can hold people accountable
mhm,
while being empathetic, while caring about them, because at the end of the day, when you hold people accountable, it's you telling them that you care about their performance. Hey,
mhm.
you know what? We didn't meet our numbers last week. I care about you getting that bonus. I care about you keeping your job. I care about this company staying afloat.
Mhm.
So I'm going to hold you accountable. And high performers actually love accountability because, hey, I made a promise. And if I'm slacking, I want to be told about it. And you can be empathetic and hold people accountable and have absolutely great performance.
Absolutely. And you have to hold them accountable. And like you said, it's a loving thing. It's like boundaries. Boundaries are gifts. Well, holding people accountable are also gifts that you're
Yes,
giving them. Because otherwise, there's no growth, there's no learning, there's no advancing.
that's right.
And it makes it very easy for someone to slide, if you will, when there's no accountability.
It does. Too easy. And also, when you're not holding your people accountable, then you're not, I don't know, in some cases, leading by example. because or maybe you are and you're not holding yourself accountable.
Oh,
That accountability has to go both ways.
I like that right there. It's a good point. So, Chris, I think we learn a lot from stories. I'm wondering if you have a story that has either happened to yourself or perhaps it happened to an executive you worked with that was really impactful and you learned a lesson from it. And perhaps the listeners might learn something by hearing the story.
A story that I learned a lot from was during my time leading turnarounds.
Mhm.
And I was brought into an organization. Obviously, they were in trouble, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have needed to turn it around. And the person that had been leading it didn't wasn't let go. They were just repurposed.
Okay.
And this person had a lot of institutional knowledge, but I didn't want to hear it. My and this was maybe a cockiness issue, right?
Mhm.
Or an ego issue. My thought there was if what you have to say is so important, then your organization wouldn't be in the trouble that it's in and wouldn't need a guy like me to come in here and fix it.
Mm,
But in reality, I wish that I had asked him more questions. I
mhm,
wish that I had taken that time to hear from him that institutional knowledge so that I could see what 3 of the 5 things that he's talking about here actually could work, and maybe they should just be executed differently as opposed to dismissing, "You know what? I don't wanna hear anything here because you've driven this into the ground." I always like to tell people, don't dismiss the experience of others, and there's so much to learn from. Doesn't mean that you have to do everything that
mhm.
someone else tells you, but take advantage of that knowledge, and you never know how you could marry up that knowledge with something new and come up with a whole different solution that really takes your game to the next level.
I love this. It's such an impactful lesson because you know what? We can learn from every single person that we come in contact with.
Yes.
And we don't look at it that way so often. And I see people all the time just dismissing people, if you will.
Mhm.
And I do believe that everyone has something to offer. Like you said, doesn't mean you have to listen to it.
Right.
Doesn't mean you have to take it and run with it, but it's always helpful to listen because even if it's not something that resonates with you or is something that you're going to do, there might be some piece of information in there that helps you bring together what it is that you need to do in the right goal in the right way.
The byproduct of listening as well is I can never emphasize enough the importance of relationships when it comes to leadership. So, in that case, from the very beginning, I made it very clear that I didn't want to hear what this person had to say. So our relationship started off on the wrong foot.
Mm,
And it remained strained for the entire time that we worked together. But taking that time to listen to somebody, even if you don't do everything that they're advising on, you're building a strong relationship.
mhm.
And that relationship is going to really overpower other things. You're going to have challenges with people. But if you have a strong relationship, then that helps you to get through those tough times.
Absolutely. People just want to feel seen and heard.
Mhm.
And when you give that to them, it builds that foundation that helps you have that successful relationship. Yeah. And it's something so
Absolutely.
simple that we can all do, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's simple but not easy
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. I was just listening to this speech and he said it over and over. Simple, but not easy.
That's right.
Just like losing weight. When you
Yes.
say how to do it, it sounds simple, but
Mhm.
so I love it. What about for yourself? Has there been a big challenge that you faced in your career? What was it and how did you overcome?
Man, um, many challenges in my career, and I think that it's because I've never been afraid to put myself out there. So,
Good
I've
for you.
always set, you know, audacious goals,
Mhm.
haven't always reached them. So, that's just part of my personality. I like to challenge myself. I like to set big goals, and the way that I have been better at overcoming or achieving those big goals is being very systemized about the way I go about my day.
Interesting.
And this is something that I now work with executives and leaders at different levels. I set a goal, I reverse engineer. All right, if I need to be here in 90 days, Where do I need to be in 60, in
Mhm.
30, and kind of work backwards. But the magic really happens every day because the old saying is progress over perfection.
Mhm.
So let's just make 1% better every single day and you'll be able to get to that goal. So a system that have been using for probably 5 or 6 years now, I call it the winning list. And the winning list is the 5 most important tasks that I need to get done on any given day.
Mhm.
I write them down in an actual book. I keep it on my desk every day. At the end of the day, I write it down in this book and then I slot it into my calendar. I'm a very competitive person. I hate to lose.
Mhm.
So there's part psychology in this. So if I complete all 5 tasks by the end of the day, I have won the day. If I haven't completed all 5, then I've lost and I don't like to lose. So that helps me to focus my energy.
I love this so much because I also am a competitive person and I can see how this works.
Yes. And it works so well.
I'm fully going to do this.
When I was younger, I wasn't systemized about it. So I would set these big goals and I would wake up in the morning and what am I going to do today?
Right.
And without having that purpose, I think it caused me to miss more things than I would have otherwise. Um,
Absolutely.
and the reason that I like to write it down in an actual book is because I can flip through these pages and I can look back and say, oh, okay, because at the top of every page, I write a W and an L. So at the end of the day, I circle, did I win? Did I lose?
Mhm.
And I can look back over the course of 3 months, 6 months. How many W's did I stack up? How many L's? Where do I need to be better? So that's just, and I
Great
like the
clarity.
tactile, just writing things down, but it's part of my reflection. Having routines is something that has helped me in my own career, in my own personal life, being specific, routine driven, I recommend for everybody.
There's so much gold in this, so much gold. The routines, yes, routines that they help us stay on track. And having something that you do every single day is as a routine, it solidifies in your psyche and it starts to feel uncomfortable if you don't do it.
Yes.
So it's really brilliant. And then playing the game with yourself because we love games. Okay, when you play a game with yourself, it's a win when you play games. So I've never done this form of play, if you will, and I love it. I think it's brilliant. I'm absolutely adopting it. And the writing things down. Personally, I never wrote things down for years and years. And people would
Mhm.
tell me to write things down. Sure, I'm going to write it down. But it's right here. It's in my head. I've got it. I've already thought it through. I don't have to write it down. No, you actually have to write it down. You really do. It is magic. I don't know. There's something that happens. And I'll write things down on my computer, but there is a difference when I write it down on paper. When you take pen to paper and you write
Mhm.
down your goals or the things that you need to do or what have you. I don't know what it is, but I call it magic in the universe because it is more powerful.
Agreed.
So I think all of this are great suggestions. And then just going back to the planning, this really hit home for me because as a recruiter, it was one of the things that was dug in our brain. Every day before you leave, you plan for your next day. You set a time before you leave for the day. That's all for planning so that the next day you walk in, you know exactly what's going to happen. And you're really just so productive. And it worked amazingly well. And when I started my own company, I didn't have the boss and the team requiring me to do these things and I stopped doing it. I wasn't doing my planning and I faltered and it was like a spinning of the wheels, if you will.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
what I figured out was like, I'm not doing the
Yes.
planning. Just had to go back to that. And when you do the planning, again, there's magic because the productivity just skyrockets. You know what you're doing, you've got your plan. So, this whole example was just full of golden nuggets. Thank you for sharing. How did you develop this for yourself? How did it come about?
So, I forget the name, like, there's a name of a system called the GSD, I think is it David Allen maybe? But I remember taking a class or some kinda course probably 15 years ago about how to be more efficient and effective, and he talked about having a daily list of items, but he didn't gamify it the way that I'm like, "All right, I need to win. I hate to lose. How can I just tweak it a little bit?
Yes.
I wish I could take credit for coming up with it and being original, but I just made some tweaks.
Look, gamifying things really work. It's just like with a bucket list, right? People have bucket lists, and so I gamify things that I don't really wanna do
Mhm.
by adding it to my bucket list.
There you go.
Now all of a sudden it's something I get to do, you
Yes.
know? So it just changed the way you feel about things.
And
So,
one of the things that I do too that I think is different, I haven't heard of other people doing this, but everybody generally starts the new year in January with these are the things that I want to do, my New Year's resolutions list. And I think that New Year's resolutions are BS. That's my opinion because
yes,
most
agree,
people don't stick to them.
agree.
By the end of January, the gyms are empty and everything's off the list. But I actually do personal annual planning on my birthday because, in my
Mm,
opinion, for me, that's another year.
mhm,
It doesn't matter what the date on the calendar is. This is another year that I'm on this earth.
yeah,
So, what do I want to get done between now and my next birthday that's going to make my life better, make
mhm.
my family's life better, whatever? So, I drive my planning around my time around the sun versus like the planet.
I'm super passionate about this, Chris. I love it so much. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm not a fan of New Year's resolutions. I believe we should always be having resolutions. We should always be thinking about what it is that we want. And once a year, I believe that's exactly what we should be doing is sitting down and thinking, okay, what is it that I really want out of this year? Like on all levels, with my relationships, with my own personal relations with myself. What do I
Yeah,
want to learn? How do I want to have joy? All the different things. How do I want to grow my career? All the things and come up with that plan and then consistently be looking at that and evaluating, is this what I still want? Is there anything that's changing? So
yep,
that you always make sure that you're on the track that means the most for you, right? I
absolutely.
love this. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So before you go, I'd love to know because I'm really passionate about how we proactively feed our minds, right? Because we're always being fed whether we want to or not. So, what's something that you've read or watched or listened to that really has a positive impact on you that you think others could benefit from as well?
Oh, wow. So I love listening to podcasts. I'm much more auditory.
Mhm.
And I would say that one of my favorite podcasts is the Jocko podcast.
Oh, what's that
Jocko
one?
Willink, he's I consider to be a role model for me. He's a leadership expert, former Navy SEAL, but talks about discipline, things that I gravitate towards.
Mhm.
But the lessons that he talks about in leadership, he will read historical books and
Interesting.
he'll draw those comparisons between, hey, what happened in 1945 versus 2024. Not a whole lot has changed in the way that people, human nature,
Mhm.
way people lead, etc. So I love the Jocko podcast.
I love that.
And the latest book that I've read is called The Book on Mental Toughness,
Mhm.
and it's by a guy named Andy Frisella. And it really is about the importance of being mentally tough to be able to get through the hardest challenges in your life, to
Mhm.
be able to make it to those goals that you want.
Mhm. Was there
I
a key
consider
piece of
myself
advice in there?
what's that?
Was there a key piece of advice in there that you could share with us?
Yeah, a few pieces of advice from Andy is that no one owes you anything.
Mhm.
If you want it, it's yours for the taking and figure out how to make it happen.
Yes.
Don't rely on others to achieve your dreams.
Mhm.
Have your own dreams and push yourself. It Our comfort zone is there for a reason, and when you just stay within your comfort zone, the your chances of growing or achieving goals that are aspirational are much less.
Mhm.
So push yourself. Put yourself into an uncomfortable position every single day. That's one of the things that I like to do. Like, all right, when I wanted to get better at just talking to people, I would literally go to a store and I would make sure I had 3 conversations with strangers. And that I'm relatively introverted. So for me to be in a store and approach somebody and just you start with a compliment, "Hey, nice sneakers," and go from there. But getting me out of that comfort zone, I can talk to anybody now
Mhm.
because I spent time doing something that didn't feel natural to me. Do something tough every day, and
Brilliant.
you'd be surprised at the results.
Brilliant. Really excellent advice. And I really hope people listen to this and do it because it will open up your world. I love that example you just gave because I also, as an introvert, I've had to challenge myself in different ways to make it, and it does, it works. It
Yeah,
shifts you, shifts who you are when you do these things.
yeah. And
Yeah.
the other thing too is I think a lot of people are afraid to have those conversations or to speak to a stranger. But when you open it up with a compliment, hey, nice sneakers, right? That's 3 words. Hey, nice sneakers. Not only are you coming out of your shell, getting out of your comfort zone, but that other person who doesn't love to be complimented.
Right.
Like, no one makes an adult wear the sneakers that they're wearing. They made a conscious choice, right, to buy that funky red pair of sneakers. So for a stranger to say, "Hey, nice sneakers," like, you just validated my decision.
Totally.
Now today, I feel awesome.
Exactly, and they're gonna go off, and they're gonna spread that awesomeness somewhere else.
That's right.
So, yeah, by doing something so simple, you're pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone, you're learning and growing, you give someone else a gift, they
Yep,
then move on, give a little positive ripple, and it just keeps going forward. Look at this magic
that's right.
happening.
Planting seeds of positivity.
I love planting seeds of positivity. It's my favorite.
Nice.
Chris, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us on the Career Wonderlist podcast. It's been a great talk.
Thank you so much, Jolie. I really had a good time. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Me too. Thank you for joining us on the Career Wanderlust podcast. If you find value in learning from others, give us a like and subscribe. If you're looking to grow your communications, marketing, public relations, or sales and biz dev team with the best talent and quickly, check us out at paradigmstaffing.com and submit a request. We are wishing you a most successful and fulfilling career. Until next time.